Hey friends, Kevin here, and today we're going to talk about the first things you need to change out parts-wise, maintenance-wise, when you get your first minivan or camper van, whatever you're going to use to build out to do van life or go on your adventures. Now, I'm not going to talk about things that everybody already knows in this video, changing the fluids and making sure the brakes are good and all of that stuff. There'll be other videos to cover that I'll get into, but I'm talking about little basic simple things that can cause you to get stranded on the side of the road if you don't check these. So this is going to be useful for anybody that's getting ready to buy their first camper van, but for those of you that already have one, I bet the things on this list, at least a couple of them, you haven't changed. You haven't even thought about changing. So let's get to it. The first little part you need to change on a van that you have bought to adventure or do van life with that costs very little money but nobody thinks about is this thing called a PCV valve. And I won't get into what all this little thing does. Here's a picture of one. You don't need any tools to replace this. So you can look up where this is if you can't find it on your own vehicle. You can easily look it up online. You can do this yourself. It generally doesn't require any tools. You simply pop it out, put a new one in, plug the little hose back, push the little hose back onto it, and you're done. This is a $10 to $15 part, sometimes less. I won't get into everything this does, and I'm not a mechanical expert in a lot of this, but PCV stands for positive crankcase ventilation. And what it does, it's a one-way valve that controls air. And this is read by the computer. And when this starts to gum up and go bad, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. It starts throwing things off in the computer. It can affect gas mileage, can cause a ton of other problems, expensive problems when you have engine lights coming on and rough idling and all of these other little symptoms that will pop up. And the mechanics start chasing these things that cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and it's all due to this roughly $10 or less part. So the first thing you want to do is change this out. Number 2 is going to be the thermostat. Now on most vehicles, this is held with, there's a thermostat cover, it's held with 2 bolts. Again, this is a very inexpensive part, usually less than 10 bucks. You don't want this thing freezing up and jamming and causing your vehicle to overheat when you're in the middle of a trip. You never know when these things can go bad, but if you're buying an older vehicle, again, anything more than 5 or 6 years old, you probably need to go ahead and change this. It has the potential to save you a whole lot of aggravation, a whole lot of potential problems somewhere down the road. Now again, on most vehicles, this is easy to find. You follow your top radiator hose over to the engine block, and you will see the 2 bolts, and you will see this cover. Some vehicles it's a little bit harder. If you follow this channel, you know I have 2 vans. One is the large white van, really easy to get to. The second one is my gold minivan, and thank you General Motors for making that an absolute nightmare, for turning what should have been a 5-minute job into something that takes 2 or 3 hours, because you have to disassemble a bunch of crap to get down to where they decided to bolt this into the engine. So it's going to be different on different vehicles. Again, this is something you can easily look up online, depending on your own vehicle. You should be able to change this yourself on most vehicles. And even if you don't have mechanical knowledge, this is something you can easily have a friend or a relative do for you in just a few minutes, again, on most vehicles. But you don't want to be dealing with a stuck thermostat and having your vehicle start to overheat and all of those related problems when you're out in the middle of nowhere. So go ahead and change this part out. So that's 2 important things down, 2 to go. If you like this video, you're getting something out of it, give me a thumbs up. Also, I'd like for you to comment down below if you've already have your van, if you've done these repairs we're talking about, or if, like most people, they're items that just you didn't think about doing or needing to do before you started doing your minivan or your camper van, whatever you're doing for van life. So let's go on, get to these other two that you need to think about changing. Number 3, everybody, when they talk about vehicles and all the things you go look at, they start talking about, oh, you get a new vehicle, you need to do a tune-up, you need to change all the fluids, you need to do a tune-up, blah, 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 immediately, and change the spark plugs and all this. There's nothing wrong with that, but if the vehicle is running fine, you really don't have to do a lot of this stuff as soon as you get your vehicle. And those aren't necessarily things that are going to cause you to have a breakdown somewhere. But one of the things that will, or number 3, is a radiator hose. Your van is going to have 2 radiator hoses that are about that big around. And these things go bad, and when they go bad, without warning, they're going to leak or they're going to bust. You're going to lose your fluid, your engine's going to overheat, and you're going to be stranded somewhere. Radiator hoses in general are going to cost about $15, $20 a piece. And I'm going to give you a very important tip on going and buying these. And that tip is this. When you go to the parts store, your auto parts store, and Advance and O'Reilly's, whatever it is that you have in your area that you go to, they have a bad habit of making these common parts in different grades. So you're going to walk in and you're going to go, I need the radiator hoses for my whatever van it is. They're going to punch those up and they're going to say, oh, we've got those in stock, and it's going to be the house brand, which is going to pretty much be crap. What they won't tell you unless you ask, and they probably won't have in stock, is for $1 or $2 more, you can get a name brand radiator hose. They may have to order it in, and you may have to pick it up the next day. Trust me on this from someone who has dealt with this. I had this exact same problem going on last year, because when I bought the big white van, I run down to the parts store and I grabbed the hoses that was in stock, and one of them failed within a year's time. So I've gotten smart since then. I make sure I get name brand radiator hoses and don't get delayed or detained or have a breakdown because the fools at the auto parts store decided it would be okay to have a crap quality part for $1 less. Number 4 here is going to be a bonus. Now, since we're dealing with a lot of cooling system stuff with the thermostat and with the radiator hoses we've just changed, the other thing that's likely to fail on you with little to no notice is going to be a water pump. So if you're buying a van more than 5 or 6 years old and you don't have service records or receipts that come with it showing that this water pump has failed and already been changed somewhere along the way, another tip, when you buy a vehicle, you're going to buy a vehicle, even one you've already bought, it wouldn't hurt to pay that $30 and pull a Carfax on it. Because Carfaxes now, in addition to just crash stuff and different things, they show a lot of maintenance stuff as more and more garages and dealerships are tied into these computerized systems, and you'll be able to see when a lot of things were done maintenance-wise on your vehicle that you may not know about. But if you're going into this blind and you don't know, you don't have the previous owner to talk to, you don't have any records, receipts, anything showing this was done, you may want to consider going ahead and changing that water pump now. Generally, when a water pump goes bad, you will have a really tiny leak, pinhole leak, and it will get worse and worse and worse until eventually the little rubber diaphragm basically inside completely gives way, and then water is just pouring through there. In which case you're going to be, again, stranded, overheating, all of these problems. So if you have the mechanical ability, or if you have some good friends or relatives that can help you, and do this for just a little bit of money compared to the $80 and up an hour that a garage is going to cost you, my advice to you is go ahead and get this water pump changed out. It'll be one less thing that you have to worry about that can leave you on the side of the road somewhere. If you're wondering what to watch next, I would consider this video. I think this will give you some good tips too if you're new to van life. I appreciate you watching. We'll talk soon.